can't live by bread alone. Yeah, this word got food in it. Stepping on the devil dome, you should see the bruise in it. Backing out the scripts, told a demon to stand down. Go against the Most High, we gon' see how it pan out. The Father gave me hope, fill me with the ghosts. Now they hate it when I glow. Joseph with the coat, looking for their fruit, but they ain't got no cantaloupe. The Messiah or Belial, you can't be a fan of both. Can't serve two masters. Bread of heaven with the living water, yeah, serving up a truth platter. We ain't idolizing no folly, now we setting up a new standard. When Christ touched down, make the whole earth shake like Bruce Banner. Yeah, bringing them troops to ya. End times getting spookier, warfare getting nuclear, mankind getting goofier. They intoxicated with a wine, damn, she done roofied them. I'm checking every word, spirit doctrine like a proofreader. I hate these Nicolaitans, hate these graven idols, man, I hate these flipping pagans. Trying to play my father and I hate these imitations. Screaming out Hosanna, we escape that simulation. Better flee to me, vote these or else that lake is where you layin'. Great is he inside of me, casting out this net like I was by the Sea of Galilee. Harvest gon' be plenty, but the laborers are few. Matthew 17 and 20, there ain't nothing we can't do. I can't be no lukewarm, fringes with the blue on. Devil wanna deal, but I told him this ain't Groupon. Praise to the Almighty, you know we gon' sing a new song. Hail the King of King, the Ultra Low, no Jimmy Neutron. If you keep his laws and his commands, then we can fellowship. I don't get with Pharisees and I don't rock with Hellenists. I ain't praising man, cause only Father get my reverence. I'm swimming in the word, it got me feeling like a yellowfin. Yeah, big stepper, Mr. Demon Chin Checker, trying to hear that well done, cause I feel that displeasure. Father pouring out the wrath, and he got a big measure. If it ain't about the kingdom, then I don't give a six letter. You got faith in the Messiah, you got power. I was clean up in that blood just like a shower. Isaiah 5, you were the vine that came out sour, but now we stand and giving glory in this hour. Yeah, we breaking them curses, fleeing the ways of the serpent. Follow his word and pray for discernment, cause they want us laying in hearses. We gotta rise up, raise and resurface. Choose life and stay in your purpose. The price was paid like a merchant, through Christ who came as a servant. See, the kingdom is really the bag, but yet somehow they chasing a Birkin. After this you ain't getting a chance, while you living you can't but search him. Gotta call on his name like it's urgent, never knowing that day is emerging. So repent at the weight of perversions, judgment coming, that thing is for certain. Let's go.
Shalom, family. It's your brother Shar Aharayhla from the House of Bread. And I have to give all praises, all glory, and all honor to the Most High God, whose name is Yahweh. Of course, I do so in the name of his only begotten Son, Hamashiach, Yahweh Shai, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. Make sure you make your way over to HIBofficialZion.com and get you a copy of the HIB, the Hebrew Israelite Bible. Shalom, Kwam Yasharallah.
The Hebrew Israelite Bible is the first of its kind, restoring the names of persons, places, and things in the ancient Hebrew dialect, colloquially referred to amongst the Israelite community as the Lashawan Quadash. Most importantly, it preserves the Most High's name Yahweh in the Paleo-Hebrew script. The Hebrew Israelite Bible comes complete with all 80 books found in the 1611 King James Version Bible, including the Apocrypha. For a limited time, use promo code WW3 at checkout for $25 off your order.
All right, shalom, family. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, all glory, and all honor unto the Most High God, whose name is Yahweh. Of course, I do so in the name of his only begotten Son, Hamashiach, Yahweh Shai, who the world ignorantly called Jesus Christ. It's your brother Shar Aharayhla. And you guys see the title of the video, right? You guys see what we're getting ready to dive into, all right? Again, all praise, glory, honor to the Most High God. All right, make sure you guys, if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the bell icon so that you get notified whenever I go live or whenever I drop a video, right? So let's see here. Put a 1 in the chat if you guys watch the debate between the brothers of Genesis and believers of the way. Put a 1 in the chat if you watch that debate. Oh, praise the Most. I see the brother Judah Main said whoever was rapping got bars. That's a fact, bro. Let me tell you something. The brother who is responsible for that track, his name is Jake Juvel, right? Jake Juvel. I actually gotta re-upload the intro video here to the channel. Whenever I upload regular videos to the channel, it will have the brother's information. So the name of the song is called Matthew 4:4 Freestyle. All right. It's called Matthew 4:4 Freestyle. And if you know, my House of Bread, our motto is Matthew 4:4. Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of God. Right. So that's what we push here. Right. We also push the bread of life. Right. You see this hat right here. Right. Got the Yahweh, on there. Right. Custom Paleo Hebrew font, hand drawn by yours truly, and then it says "Live by every word." Right. So that's what we try to embody here at the House of Bread, living by every word that proceeded out of the mouth of God. Right. So again, Christ quoted the Torah in Matthew 4:4 when he was tempted of the devil. Right. So Matthew 4:4 Freestyle is the name of the song. It's by the brother Jake Juvel. Let me pull it up on YouTube real quick, and I'll put the link in the chat for y'all. I get questions all the time, like, "Oh, who's on that intro track? I need that intro track." Bro is nice with it, man. Bro is so cold with it, man. So shout out to the brother Jake Juvel. I reached out to bro, a few months ago when I created the intro track, and I was like, "Yo, bro, like, can we use this song for our intro?" We here at House of Bread, this is our motto, so definitely wanted to highlight that. So I'm gonna put the link in the chat here for the family, right? But yeah, so it looks like a lot of y'all have watched the debate between the brothers of believers of the way in Genesis, right? So shout out to the brother Ratagon. I forget the other brother's name. Me and Ratagon, I'm cool with that brother. Spend some time on Clubhouse with the brother. You know what I mean? And of course, me, Deacon, and Hassan, those are my guys, right? We go way back. So All praise to the Most High. It was a beautiful debate, beautiful edification through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Shai. And, actually, Yatazar, the brother's name is Yatazar, the Water King, right? So, yeah, shout out to them brothers, man. Airtime said he need the link to this hat. These hats are exclusive right now, right? We haven't put these out yet, but we might, right? I got the I got the House of Bread on the side, I had to throw in the House of Bread hockey jersey. All praise to the Most High, right? But you guys saw I put a little commercial here on the channel, right? If you have not gotten a copy of your Hebrew Israelite Bible, right, I don't know what you're doing, right? Here is the HIB, the Hebrew Israelite Bible, right? Hebrew Israelite Bible, the HIB, right? Edited by yours truly, right? You got the Shemai prayer in the back, Shemai Yasha'ali Yahweh Aharayhla Yahweh Achad, right? The HIB, again, first of its kind, right? It includes the Apocrypha, right? It includes all 80 books, okay? It restores the Most High God's name in the ancient Paleo font. So you'll see this font, right? You'll see this font in your HIB in red, right? And then, of course, has the names of persons, places, and things transliterated in what we call the Lashon Kodash. So instead of reading Jesus, you'll read verbatim on the paper Yahweh Shai, right? Instead of reading Moses, you would read Mashah, right? So make your way over to HIBofficialzion.com and get your copy of the Hebrew Israelite Bible and use promo code WW3 for $25 off, right? $25 off your copy of the HIB, right? What says Shalom, question about transitional days. According to Ezekiel 1, can you explain how many days the gate will be shut during the week of the transition before the new moon? That's a good question, right? I haven't actually looked. I haven't really gave that much thought. But I'll look into that, brother Yeremia, and I will definitely get back to you on that, right? Right, but all praise to the Most High, right? So we're here to discuss. Actually, before we dive into it, right? Also, right, if you haven't, right, make sure you follow me on Instagram at Lion of Yahweh, right? If you're not following me on Instagram, Lion of Yahweh, and also tap in with my tassel page, right? So bust down tassels, right? So two of them on for y'all. Look at them joints, bling blow, right? Get you some bust down tassels at Gedalia Aharayhla on Instagram, right? Actually, I got about 4 sets that I'm making right now. Lord willing, getting brothers orders out by tomorrow, right? Quick turnaround, right? Quick turnaround on these bad boys, right? If you put in an order, right, I typically start working on them that day. Of course, the Shabbat will get in the way, right? And of course, I don't keep a Friday to Saturday Shabbat. I'm not a Saturn saint, right? But depending on when you order your tassels, right, I should get them knocked out within a couple of days and shipped out to you ASAP. But follow me at Gedalia Aharayhla. Let me actually pull it up real quick and share it on the screen, right? Share window. Yeah, so follow me here. Follow me here on Instagram, right? Gedalia Aharayhla, right? GADALYA_Aharayhla, right? Just shoot me a DM, right? Just shoot me a DM, and we'll get your order popping, right? But Gedalia Aharayhla got tons of heat, right? Tons of heat through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Yahshua. Tons of different colors that are available. I do a lot of advertising on my story on Instagram with both pages. All right. So if you need some tassels, tap in with your boy Gedalia Aharayhla, right? So yeah, let's get into this, man. Actually, before we even dive into it, I just want to put this out here, right? There's zero beef, right? I just want that to be known. There is zero beef between myself and the brothers of Anointed House of Saints, right? Real cool with the brother Eliel, right, who did the video, right, who's doing most of the teaching in the video, right? Really cool, my brother Judah, right? Shout out to my brother Judah. I was on the phone with that brother the other day. Cool with the brother Shaquat as well. Actually, just the brother Timmy up earlier today, right? So there's zero beef, right? Zero beef between myself and the brothers of Anointed House of Saints. Love them brothers. Those are my guys, right? Just so you guys understand, I'm the type of brother I like most brothers, right? I love all brothers. I love all my brothers, right? But I get along with the vast majority of my brothers here in the truth, especially brothers who put boots on the ground, right? Now, there are, of course, individuals in bodies of Israelites that I don't fuck with, right? That I know these niggas are evil, right? So I don't rock with evil niggas, right? The brothers at Anointed House of Saints are solid brothers, right? They push this truth, right? Obviously, we have difference of opinions as it pertains to the Shabbat, right? How it's determined. But that's neither here nor there. What we're going to do is we're going to analyze this video that the brother did, and just dive into it, right, and react to it, right, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shar, right. Again, family, make sure you guys like and share the video, right. You liking the video, right, you dropping a comment, engaging in the live chat lets you to know that you like this content, and of course it'll get you further into the Israelite rabbit hole. I remember the first time I discovered Israelite camps. I'm coming into my 7th year in the truth here. All praise to the Most High. All right. Of course, I do that in the name of His only begotten Son, Hamashiach Yahushua. Right. I was in the Christian church, was in ministry, right, was thinking about going to seminary school, right. The Most High God literally just thwarted those plans, right. Just completely knocked me off course and sent me down the path to finding the truth, right. The truth that, right, we are the children of Israel, that were required to keep the laws, and that were required, of course, to maintain that faith in Hamashiach Yahushua and endure until the end, right. Now, before I came into the truth, I did not, I knew that we were the Israelites, but I did not know the doctrine. I didn't know the proper understanding. I didn't understand that Yahushua only died for the children of Israel. I didn't understand that we had to keep the law. I didn't understand that we were not in the new covenant, right? And even if we were in the new covenant, we would be keeping the laws of God, right? So, the Most High God sent me on this rabbit hole, and I think the first camp I ever saw on the street corners was IUIC, right? I was watching IUIC videos, right? As I'm watching more and more IUIC videos, now I've come across HOI, right? I come across AOC, right? I come across WFI, right? Back when the brother Naquam and them had the Adam Abbott channel. Like, this is way back then. A lot of y'all may not even remember the Adam Abbott channel because that channel got clipped years ago, right? So, me watching these videos and hitting the like button, right? It allowed for YouTube to continue to push this type of content in my algorithm, right? And this is how the word gets pushed, right? Brothers, put in the time to edify the nation, right? To do lessons, things of that nature, right? Go into breakdowns for the edification of our people, right? So that this word, this gospel gets pushed out to the four corners of the earth, right? If y'all want to get up on out of here, right? Do your part in helping further the pushing of the gospel, right? You may not be boots on the ground, right? You may not be, part of a congregation, right? But camps are imperative to the pushing of this truth, right, to the four corners of the earth, so that, again, our people can get sealed, our people can wake up to who they are, return to the Most High God, and we can get the hell up on out of here, right? So make sure you guys like and share the videos, right? With that said, right, let's dive into it in a second real quick, right? And it's funny, I had made a post on Facebook think it was, yeah, it had to been yesterday, right? Because the debate was on Friday. And you know, on my post, I said, you know, one thing about me is that I'm not going to sugarcoat shit, right? And I'm not going to tell you it's candy, right? I'm not going to put sugar on top of shit, right? And then tell you that it's candy, right? I said anyone, whether you believe Friday and Saturday is a Shabbat or not, who thinks that the brothers of BOW won that debate, I said you're an idiot. And the reason why I said that is because it was abundantly clear, right? When again, I'm speaking from someone who's had several formal debates, right? I've had several debates informal as well, right? And one thing about debating is that you have to stick to the topic, right? You have to stick to the topic, right? You have to ask pertinent questions, right? You also have to understand what your opponent is actually saying, right? I feel like a lot of times brothers and sisters who are coming from the Friday to Saturday perspective, that they literally don't understand what it is that we teach, right? And then they attack strawmen, right? And the brothers use the buzzword strawman. Oh, that's a strawman. That's a strawman, right? The entire debate. The brothers literally brought up sources from a 5-year-old video that was not presented in the debate. The brothers literally admitted that the moon determines the feast days. They said that. And admitted that the Sabbath is a feast day. That was virtual forfeiture, right? So the reason why I make that post is because it again, it just is what it is, right? I am not the BS type, right? I'm not the BS type. I think Prince of Israel, right? I'm not even sure if he's a lunar Sabbath keeper. He says they don't understand the lunar Sabbath paradigm. They don't. So with that said, right, the good brother Eliel, he made a post, right? And I know that it was a little jab. It was cool. It's all cool, right? It's all love, right? He says, look, since niggas ain't sugarcoating shit, if you misrepresent / lie on your own sources, you lost the debate. If you agreed that a week is made up of 7 days, but you determine your days changing by the moon, but full moon cycle doesn't change daily. I don't even know what the hell he was talking about. The brother went to his post, right? And I've just watched a lot of the things that have been being said about the debate prior to and after the debate, right? And these things got to get addressed, right? Now, just so y'all understand, right, before, you know, all the fiasco that happened right before Passover, right, the expose, the grand expose of Israel, right, before that happened, I wanted to actually do a reaction to this particular lesson that the brothers of Anointed House of Saints did when it came out. This was like 8 months ago, right? Mind you, I was still a member of Sakari at that time, and I was told from higher ups not to do it, right? So here we are today, right? And we're going to dive into it in just a bit, right? So let's just go ahead and pull this up. So this is the brother Jake Juvel, right? Jake Juvel, he's here on YouTube. He's also on Insta. You can find him on Instagram as well, right? His Instagram is Jake Juvel. He has a SoundCloud, and I believe a lot of his music is also on Apple Music, right, and Spotify. So tap in with the brother, right? But let's dive into this video real quick. So there's the reasons that Ahos keeps the 7-day Sabbath.
Said anything, right? Once again, just like the Monday, this is not to warrant a debate. This is not to say we're smarter than anybody, right? It's not to mock other brothers for not knowing something or not being as educated as other people are on a certain topic. But
let me make sure that y'all can hear. Let me get one in the chat to make sure that you guys can hear the video, hear the audio. One in the chat if you can hear the audio. Prince of Israel said, why did they tell you not to do it? Because the leader of that organization wanted to be very, he liked to be very politically correct, right? You know, and all praise to the Most High that I'm no longer in that organization and I don't have to answer to the likes of that individual, right? You know, it had been on my spirit for years, right? To really start sliding on a lot of the bullshit doctrines that are taught in the nation, right? Like you have an organization who teaches you that it's okay to cook on the Sabbath. Forget whether or not you believe the Sabbath is Friday to Saturday or predicated upon the lunar phases, right? Irregardless of that, right? Teaching that it's okay to cook as well as buy and sell on the Sabbath. Those are sins punishable by death. And Hamashiach Aharayhla, who the world even called Jesus Christ, said in Matthew 15:17, think not that I come to destroy the law of the prophets. I have not come to destroy it, but to fulfill. He says, if you break the least of the commandments and you teach men so, you shall be called least in the kingdom of heaven. And if you do and teach them, you'll be called great in the kingdom of heaven. And that's why our motto here at House of Bread is Matthew 4:4. Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of God. Right? So I hope that answers your question, brother, Prince of Israel. Right? So wanted to be very politically correct. Didn't want to ruffle a lot of feathers. Didn't want to have all this sense of camp beef and whatnot. But yet now is still claiming, affiliation with the gang. It's hilarious to say the least, right? But me personally, this is not a camp beef, right? There's no camp beef between Anointed House of Saints and House of Bread, right? We both have the name House in our name, right? Nothing against these brothers. Love these brothers, right? Obviously, we disagree on certain things, specifically the Shabbat, right? And this was a response to the video that Deacon Hassad did a few months back, right? It's probably 8-9 months ago, where they said, and it came from the perspective that if you're keeping the Friday to Saturday Sabbath, right, that is predicated upon paganism, right? Your idea of Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, these all go back to the pagan Roman Empire, right? Which the Bible says is Satan and the devil, right? So they came from that angle, right? I've never approached it from that angle. I just always understood and believed that Friday to Saturday just is not the Sabbath, right? It's wrong, right? I never presented it or, presented the lunar Sabbath and juxtaposed it to the fixed Friday to Saturday Sabbath from that perspective. But those brothers did that, right? And this was a response from the brother Eliel. So let's get into it. Actually, let me just let's put the playback speed up, right? Let's do that when I'm doing reactions, so we're not, wasting a lot of time. This is a almost 3-hour long video that they did. We're not going to cover everything.
What it is to do is to show you guys that our elders chose the 7-day Sabbath as opposed to the lunar Sabbath because they knew about it, of course. But they chose that for a reason, right? I want to make it clear that there were brothers like F.S. Cherry before the camps, that kept the 7-day Sabbath. Those of us part of Anointed House of Saints that know your history, you know about the Greeks, and we're going to get into that today. Because there were some statements made on the Genesis video, right? So, we're going to kind of get.
So, I have a problem with that statement. Oh, the elders, they knew about it. Oh, F.S. Cherry, he kept it, right? The Friday, Saturday, Sabbath. When we look at F.S. Cherry and the Commandment Keepers, they were in lockstep with Judaism. So I don't care what the hell F.S. Cherry did, right? Elder Bivens, right? Who, of course, if I'm not mistaken, they also kept the Friday, Saturday, Sabbath, right? But Elder Bivens broke off from the Commandment Keepers because they didn't believe in Yahushua. And he started One West. So that's a moot point. Like, who cares, right? What F.S. Cherry and the Commandment Keepers believe. And honestly, right, just because the elders hold something does not make it true. The Bible says that knowledge shall increase in the last. That's what the Bible says, that knowledge shall increase in the last. So just going off of what the elders say, right, is problematic, right? But let's get into it.
So let me pull this video up one more time. Oh snap! It is the light. It's better than the House of Saint San Fran. You know what I mean? We're gonna start up soon. Yeah, and we up here, right? Shalom, Sister Maka, House of Aharayhla, right? Shalom.
Just doing little shout outs.
Let me
if you own the class, if you privy to you're on your social media platform.
Son who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. This is Fri-Sat, aka Big. Since we didn't get to, let's get right into it.
Groceries for the Saturday night Sabbath. You Friday night. Let me tell you this: for the brothers and sisters who are keeping Friday night to Saturday night Sabbath, who are hustling and bustling to try to get ready for the Sabbath coming in, you might have some extra time to buy the groceries. Right, we ready to bring it. Cool.
Yeah, all praise. So let's get right into it, y'all. No commercials, no none of that. What's happening? So since we didn't get it, since we haven't gotten a chance to, we're gonna go. Yeah, we could stay to the side. So let me see how it looks. Let me see how open to a debate on this topic. We'll have to do this presentation today. That is all for the edification of the body. So,
and I'm gonna reiterate, like I did on Monday, the reason there. Hey, shalom, everybody coming in, brother. I hit the like button and the share button when y'all come in, but the reason there was no debate accepted for this topic is because when these brothers were with Sakari and they were all one camp, there was multiple debates that were done. We had one when we were the Sons of Thunder, right? It was me and Joel specifically that was in the room with all the elders from all the major camps that you guys know about, that were a thing, that were alive around in 2020, right? Because we got a lot of camps now that weren't around. But all the camps that were around in 2020, all of the big ones, except for GMS and IUIC, you know, and ISUPK and GLCC, all the ones that associate with each other, I'll say that. All the big camps that associate with each other, we had all our elders in the room, right? It was at the summit in Fort Lauderdale, okay? It wasn't
that was back in 2020. Yeah, I was at that summit. I was not part of the conversation that was had at that time. But let's keep going.
Because the point was to just get all the information out, have a debate between whoever wanted to join in the debate and defend the points. There were two debates that went on. There was one debate on which new moon we should have, right? Me and Joel were also in that debate against
Good point, Brother Jay. He says a lot of Israelites like to claim they know logical fallacies, but they don't understand the appeal to authority fallacy. Meaning just because someone of status did something, it doesn't mean it's right. I'll give you an example, right? When you read the Bible, it lets you know that our people were not keeping the Feast of Tabernacles since the time of Joshua, right? Since the time of Joshua. And as Brother Hassad says, this is pure cap. Hassad, if you want to join, brother, let me know. I'll put a link in the chat, right? But let's continue.
Our elder of this camp, one of our elders of this camp, Priest Yakana, right? From Yahweh's camp. And he was representing the elders of HODC. And well, that might have been it. Everybody else was for the dark moon. So it was the elders versus us, basically. Everybody else, right? The silver moon or the dark moon, right? Because the elders didn't want us to keep the same moon as the heathen, right? But it was agreed that, well, not really agreed because they still do their thing. But the debate, it wasn't settled because half the brothers was like, yo, we don't feel this way about this, and we don't feel that way about that, right? So that happened. We didn't come to an agreement. Same thing happened with the Sabbath discussion, but not because the debate finished. It was because the brothers that were representing the lunar discussion, half of them, it was two teams, right? It was me and Joel teamed up with HOD.
Let's just move on.
His camp. You put it in the Bible. I think I did a Mook Monday on. Already had one, and then we witnessed.
Well, this was going to be proven through the spirit and power of the Most High Yahweh, right?
Yeah, I don't think y'all heard him. What we're getting ready to prove is that the Sabbath that a lot of us kept Friday night to Saturday night. Not only is it incorrect, I need to make sure that y'all really are properly ascertaining and listening to this. Not only is it incorrect, but it is literally it's Satan's calendar. I'm just going to give it to you straight. It's Satan's calendar. Oh, you mean it's not? I'm ready to prove it.
All praise. All right, so let's start this, y'all. What calendar did the Israelites utilize before they were subjugated by the beast, which is the Roman Empire, and given their satanic calendar, which is still in use today? Question mark. Anybody know? Does anybody know? Definitely not the beast calendar. The Israelites did not even have their own physical universal calendar. The Most High prescribed, don't worry about the typos, prescribed the celestial bodies of heaven for us to keep time. Today, we will prove this with history archaeology, and scripture that Saturday is not the day the Most High appointed to be his holy Sabbath. In fact, Saturday Sabbath was created to worship Saturn. It's idolatry.
So, it's funny because, someone after the debate said, oh, show me lunar in the Bible and I'll repent and keep the lunar Shabbat, right? And that's just really a silly, very, very silly and elementary talking point, right? Because the word lunar literally means pertaining to the moon. And when we read Genesis 1, it lets us know that the sun, the moon, and the stars are lights that were put in the firmament of the sky for signs, seasons, and times, right? We see in the book of Psalms, we see in the book of Sirach that from the moon comes the sign of feasts. And the Sabbath is a feast day. So that was just a silly talking point from that brother, right? Because I can do the same thing and it actually will make sense. Show me Friday or Saturday in the Bible. I'll wait. That's one thing that no one who keeps a Friday to Saturday Sabbath can do. Is show me Friday or Saturday in the Bible. In the ancient manuscripts. You cannot. You can do what our good brother Ratazan tried to do earlier today. Hassan was live. He used the MSG, right? The Message Bible, right? For a particular verse. I think he also used the NLT for a particular verse, and it said Saturday there. Right? I think someone else actually, no. Forgive me. Ratazan didn't do that. It was someone in the comments, right? Said, oh, break down this verse in the NLT. Not understanding different types of what's the faces? Translatory styles, right? Every translation has a methodology in which how it translates, right? The KJV is a word for word translation. The MSG, the NLT, the NIV, these are thought for thought translations, right? But let's continue.
The calendar we use today is given to us by the beast in the book of Revelation and Daniel. It's flawed and its weekly cycle is interrupted. The calendar the Most High gave the Israelites is in accordance with the celestial bodies, and the new moon determines the Sabbath.
Is anybody?
All right, hold on.
Zoom in. Keep on the channel. I thought we should be all right.
Okay, turn your phone sideways. Turn your phone sideways. Blow up the screen. The months, the water for the super chat donation, greatly appreciate you. The months, weeks, days, and seasons are determined by the moon cycle.
This, plus the things he said before this, are the first reason why I wasn't convinced by this video, right? So first he says that the months, or the calendar rather, was given to us by the beast system, right? So let me pull some things up. This is where the knowledge of history comes into play, right? This is why I became an historian and I really dig into history, right? Brothers like Harash did it. They had Yeshaya at the old school for all the elders that you know to learn history, because it's imperative to know every bit of history that you can learn to fully understand why certain things were done in history and why our people did certain things, right? As far as, or kept certain things, right? So, like the Sabbath. First thing I'm gonna show you guys. Let me see. Hold on. All right. So they tell us, and what he's going to tell us later in the video in a little bit, right, is that it was made by the beast system, Saturday Sabbath, right? And that the word Saturn, you know what I'm saying, is what you're doing. You're worshiping Saturn when you do this Saturday Sabbath. So I'm going to show you guys some things. If you follow the Anointed House of Saints, right, you've seen our history video from Milk Monday on the Danes, right? The Greeks, right? The tribe of Dan, okay? We got 2 different videos on the tribe of Dan, and both of them explain how Dan and Judah went to Greece and actually were the Greeks. If you've taken any collegiate history class, right, that teaches on antiquity and Greece, right, they tell you that the name for the Greeks wasn't Greek. They never called themselves that. They were called Hellenes. Who are the people in the Bible that we say the Hellenes are? Boaz, could you tell me that?
Greek-speaking Jews.
Greek-speaking.
And that's incorrect. The word Hellene is not Greek-speaking Jew. The word Hellenistes is Greek-speaking Jew, right? Let's prove that real quick, right? Let's go to Blue Letter Bible, right? Greek. Lexiconic. So you have Helen, right? I believe is this one right here? No, this is the let's see. Now, right? Right. So boom. No, not this one. It's not the one. Right. Hellenistes. Hellenist, right? Here's the Greek word Hellenistes. Refers to a Greek-speaking Jew, particularly one that lived in the diaspora during the Hellenistic period. That's the phrase that's used for Greek-speaking Jew. The word Hellen is not, it does not denote Greek-speaking Jew, right? When we look at how this word is used, right? These are people who have been completely assimilated into the Greco customs, right? I'll give you an example. Let's take a look at the book of Mark, chapter 7 and verse, I think it's 24. Let me show you. So it says, and from thence he arose and went into the border of the Tyre and Zidon and entered into an house and would have no man know, but he could not be hid. For a certain woman whose young daughter had an unclean spirit, right, heard of him and came and fell at his feet. The woman was a Greek, right? Let's take a look at this word for Greek, right? Hellenes, right, which comes from Hellene, right? Hellene, right? This is just the feminine version of Hellene, okay? For the record, this is the feminine version of Hellene, right? So here is a Syrophoenician. The Canaanite woman that we read about in Matthew 15, she's called a Greek, a Hellene. She's not a Jew. Hellene is not Greek-speaking Jew. Hellenistes is Greek-speaking Jew. For the record, right? But let's continue.
Jews.
Jews. Who are Jews?
Israelites.
Okay, wait a minute. Before I show you that,
and for the record, right, before Jews got assimilated into the Greco world and they were Hellenized, right, that word comes from the Macedonians, Hellas, right? Greece was known as Ioan or Ionia, where we get the phrase Ionia goes back to the Hebrew word Ioan, right, which in your KJV is transliterated as Javan, right? There's no J in the ancient Hebrew. There's no V or V sound in the ancient Hebrew. There's no how we know that? There's not even a V in the Greek language, right? So when you read your Bible, right, get you a copy of the HIB, the Hebrew Israelite Bible. Use code WW3 at checkout for $25 off, right? And you'll read verbatim Yoan, right, for one of the sons of Japheth, right? So the Japhites originally inhabited Greece, Italy, right, that area, right? And the Edomites made their way into Greece, Chittim, Rome, and then they took over those locations, as they do everything, right? They steal, right, and got those people going out of there, right? And now they start to take their names, same way that a white person goes to goddamn Africa, South Africa. Now they're African. Same situation, right? So I don't know what historical records he's using to say that the tribe of Dan or the tribe of Judah went to Greece and did X, Y, Z. Listen, that could be very well true, but the things that he's getting ready to say is going to be very, very problematic. Let's continue.
Okay, hold on.
So you see, he has something up here that says, yes, Kronos, the Greek Titan, was associated with the Roman god Saturn, who was the namesake of the English day of the week, Saturn, right? So he's going to try to connect it to Greece, right, and not to Rome. And he's trying to make this argument that, the tribe of Dan and the tribe of Judah went into Greece, all right, and they are these Greeks, right? Very, very problematic.
All right, bet. So look, let me show you guys something right quick. because we did history on the Greeks for a reason, right? It wasn't just to find Dan. It was to give you guys history, right? So that you understand certain things. He said that we got everything from the Romans, right? But history says that the Romans got everything from the Greeks. It's very hypocritical for us to one moment say that Esau is a vagabond on the earth, right? And that he didn't take anything, he didn't make anything, he just steals, kills, pillages, and destroys, right? But then when we have an argument that we want to make and want to make people believe, Esau automatically made every damn thing, right? When niggas don't want to believe in Jesus, Esau made that. When niggas don't want to believe in the church.
That's not even the point that Deacon is even making, right? He's saying specifically this concept of Friday or Saturday, right, and its association with the Sabbath, right, comes from us being under the Roman tutelage, under their oppression. That's the point. He's not saying, oh, the white man created everything. No, that's not what's being said. So this is right here is a straw man.
Esau made that. When niggas like, that's the cop out for everything, right? But Esau didn't make a damn thing on the planet, not even vanilla, right? They just change things and adapt to it, all right? Did the Greeks call themselves?
Of course, they didn't make vanilla. Vanilla is a natural thing that God created. That didn't even make sense.
Greek? No, the ancient Greeks did not call themselves Greek. Hellenes. The ancient Greeks referred to themselves as Hellenes. The term Hellene comes from the mythological figure Helen, son of Deucalion, right, and Pyrrha. The word Hellenes or Hellenes first appeared in the writing in 584 BC by the Bronze Age lyricists, right? Now, people have a misconception that Greeks got to be Javon, right? Well, no, Javon's people never called themselves Greeks. They had other names. They had Cyprus. They had Mycenaean. They had Minoan, right? They had things like that. Ashkenaz, right? The Greeks were a people, was a name given to us, right, by other people. While in the land, Greek was not a name we used. The name was Hellene. Hellene is the same thing written in the Bible in Koine Greek to refer to us that became Gentiles in the same damn place. Why?
Again, everyone, listen, just for the record, it was not just us, the Israelites, that were Hellenized. We literally read about the Canaanite woman. She's a Syro-Phoenician, right? If you know anything about the Canaanites, right? They dwell in what's classically known today as Lebanon, Syria, right? And then they also became the Phoenicians. They're also known as the Phoenicians, right? For instance, Hannibal, right? Hannibal Barca, right? He fought the Romans in the Punic Wars, right? The word Phoenicia is a Greek word, right? The same way the word Ethiopia is a Greek word. The same way the word Egypt or Egyptian is a Greek word, right? So they put these denonyms on people, okay, for the record. So, whatever, let's go.
Because we knew what we were referred to in the land. We were the people that came up with the names. We were the Greeks, right? Proof. We did the history, right? We have the PowerPoint. Let me show you. So you can look all of this history up. The tribe of Dan in the Bible, the book of Joshua, chapter 19, verses 40 to 47, they get the Joppa coast as one of their seaports before they go up to Lashem and take more land, right? When you go into the book of Ezekiel, chapter 27, verses 13 to 19, you see that Javan and Dan were trading with each other, right? They've been doing it since the beginning of time of us being in the land, right? Since Dan got that coast, they've been trading with Javan, going back and forth. What is Javan? Greece, okay? Then you see later on in Ezekiel 27 that Judah as well is a trader going back and forth to places around that land, like Tarshish and Damascus, right? So people that go back and forth to Greece, all right? Now, there's history you can look up. There's a people called the Danaans in 1500 BC, right? 1500 BC. We just saw on Google, right? On the thing that I showed you guys about the Greeks being the Hellenes, the first time they were written as Hellene was 584 BC. So the tribe of Dan, the people that Josephus, the Israelite historian, as Chief called him, right, which is true. Josephus, the Israelite historian, said that Dan was the last Macedonians, right? Along with part of the tribe of Simeon. I'm going to show you. It's also in the PowerPoint part of the history. It's in his books, right? So the fact that Josephus said that the last Macedonians that we read about in the book of Maccabees, along with the Scythians or Scythians, however you want to pronounce it, right? Same people that went on to.
Yo, shout out to my brother Ali Awan from the Refiners, right? Great point. And you read my mind, right? So this is Joel chapter 3 verse 6. It says, the children also of Judah and the children of Jerusalem have ye sold unto the Grecians. That word for Grecians is in the Hebrew, Yohan, right? Or Javan. So listen, the tribe of Dan being in Greece, that's fine. That's fine and dandy. That Dan being in Greece, that's fine and dandy. That's who cares, right? But what's getting ready to come out of this brother's mouth is it's going to be really, really laughable. But let's continue.
You know, do something with Scythia, right?
And again, just for the record, I have no beef with these brothers. Love these brothers.
But in Sicily, but these people, right, are Dan. Okay, Dan goes to the land as the Danians.
So the brother Shar says, are the Greeks and the Romans Esau? Ain't they the same? So the Greeks and Romans are not the same per se, right? What we got to understand, for instance, is that just how there's 12 tribes of Israel, there's 12 dukes of Edom, right? Duke Teman, Duke Dedan, Duke Amalek, Duke Lotan, Duke Quanaz, Duke Zepho, right? There's all these dukes of Edom, right? They have 12 dukedoms. We have 12 tribes. Okay. When you understand, you know, how the scriptures tell us that the Most High God would destroy Esau's heritage, which is Mount Seir, which is in Petra, Jordan, right? They were driven out, right? And in that place, their heritage was left for the dragons of the wilderness, which were the Nabateans. The Nabateans are an Arabian tribe. Now, Esau was always close with the Ishmaelites because he married Ishmaelites, right? He also married Canaanites, right? That's what Esau did, right? So when you understand the Romans as we know them in history that created the Roman Empire, right? They for instance, some of the last kings of Rome, some of them trace their origin back to the Etruscans. The Etruscans were the original dark inhabitants of Italy, right? What's modern day Italy. You have to understand that Esau, he goes everywhere, he infiltrates, he gentrifies, right? And then he kicks you out. That's what Esau has been doing from the beginning of time. Even when you look at Mount Seir was not theirs, right? They took that from the Horites, okay? So Esau is a vagabond in the earth. He goes around, he does steal things. There's no doubt about that, right? But to just make a blanket statement and say that the tribe of Dan and Judah, they're the Greeks, that's just intellectually, what's the word I'm looking for? Irresponsible. It's intellectually irresponsible to do so, because you have to put this into context and perspective, right? So the original inhabitants of Italy, of Greece, are Japhites, right? And this is why we have niggas who believe that the white man is Japheth and the white man is not Esau. So-called Caucasians are the Edomites, right? They take everything because their blessing is what? The sword, right? They go forth conquering and killing people with the sword, okay? Then you have, of course, Philip of Macedon, right? You have, of course, his son Alexander. He goes forth, conquers, right? And then he Hellenizes. So is Alexander the Great, is he a Jew? Is he a Danite or a Judite? I think not. But let's keep going.
Take over Cyprus in between 1500 and 1485 BC, right? And you can see, right, that they begin to deal with the Greeks and everything, and they have even a shrine for idol worship, right? After the split, you can read about that in Judges 18. You can read more about it in 1 Kings 12, right? So
I want to point something out, right? Deacon Hassad, right, presented an angle, right, concerning the Friday to Saturday Sabbath from an idolatry perspective. And in an attempt to discredit what they're saying, right, and to put things into perspective based upon this history that you you've dove into, done lessons on, right? You're now saying that, oh, these are the Danites and the Judites living in Greece. So now you say, oh, no, they got that from the Greeks. That means they got that from the Danites. That means they got that from us. And you just admitted that the Danites were into idolatry. So your attempt to discredit the idolatry claim is to double down on idolatry. Let's repeat that, right? In an attempt to combat, right, the charge that Friday, Saturday, Sabbath is predicated and rooted in paganism, you double down on that paganism by saying, yeah, the Romans, we didn't get it from the Romans got it from the Greeks, but we're the Greeks, specifically the tribe of Dan, who's known for idolatry. Family, put a 1 in the chat if what I just said, right, the way I presented that makes sense to you. Put a 1 in the chat. If you're not following and you need me to slow it down and unpack it even further, put a 2 in the chat. Because that was ridiculous. I'm going to fight idolatry with idolatry. What? Okay. So Brother Dewey, he's picking up what I'm putting down. Oh, praise to the Most High. Oh, man. Today's been a long day, family. All right, Dre. So I'm going to go back just a little bit, right? So just so you understand, right? Deacon Hassad, when they did this original video about 8-9 months ago, they combated and brought out information, right, about this concept of Friday to Saturday and how, of course, it's rooted in paganism, right? Saturday is Saturn's day. Saturn is a Roman god, right? Which is the Greek equivalent of Kronos, right? Kronos is a Greek titan, and Kronos. Let me show you guys something about Kronos, right? Kronos was a titan, the youngest son of Uranus, Sky, and Gaia. Uranus, right? This is all Greek mythology, which is idolatry, right? One of the planets when we were in school, right? You had Mercury, Venus, Mars, Earth. What else you know? You got Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, right? Or Uranus, Neptune, used to be Pluto, right? We learned this in school, right? This all goes back to Greek mythology, which is rooted in idolatry, right? So when we take a look at Kronos, right, the leader and youngest of the Titans, right? Let's take a look here. Here are his parents, and who are his offspring? Zeus, Hera, Hades, Poseidon, Demeter, Chiron. These are all Greek gods. But I thought it was Yahweh Echad. Right? So in an attempt to combat the claim that, hey, your Saturday Sabbath is rooted in idolatry, the brother doubled down with idolatry by saying, oh, no, they got it from the Greeks. We know the Greeks to be idolaters, right? And the Danites were the Greeks. And the Danites are known for idolatry. Look what it has on the screen, right? Dan began to establish colonies in Greece under the name Danans between 1500 and 1485 BC. Then began the Greek pantheon of gods. Their idol worship began in Judges 18:22 to 31 and 1 Kings 12 26 to 30. Sister Abby, are you married? Are you married, Sister Abby? If you're married, go get your husband. Right? So the Sister Abby says Sabbath, Shabbat, right, is every seventh day, every seventh days period. Thus saith the Lord. Let's actually take a look at the Bible. Let's see if the Bible actually says that. Leviticus chapter 23. All right. So I did a command F. Command F refined the word every. The word every only appears in everything in reference to verse 37, right? But let's look at Leviticus 23 and verse 2. It says, speak unto the children of Israel and say unto them concerning the feasts of the Lord, which ye shall proclaim to be holy convocations. Even these are my feasts. 6 days shall work be done. But the seventh day is the Sabbath of rest. In holy convocation, ye shall do no work therein. It is the Sabbath of Yahweh in all your dwellings. Does it say every seventh day, every 7 days? It doesn't say that. It just says 6 days work shall be done, but the seventh is the Sabbath of rest. So you have 6 working days, then you have rest. 6 working days, rest, right? So that's what it says. It doesn't say every 7 days, right? So just to make things abundantly clear, right? Prince of Israel 3. No, we don't have that set to debate at all. Are Samoans Danites? No. So let's continue.
The reason Dan was chosen to have a shrine for idol worship is because they were already known for worshiping idols, bringing back titles of idols, right? People that they made. Because history tells us that Dan helped create the Greek god pantheon, right? History tells us that you can look up on your own. We also have it in the PowerPoint and in the video that we did, the history lesson on Dan, right? The first one, from about 4 weeks ago. We proved that all the historians that know about the story of Hercules say that it comes from the Danians that went to Cyprus and told the people of Cyprus, and then later the people of Javan, who became the Mycenaeans and Minoans, right? Told them about this man named Samson, right? These Minoans and Mycenaeans and Javanites and Cyprusites, they go and make a story of this man. They call him Aharayhla, right? Which happens to be the Hebrew word for what? Traders or merchants, which is what we just read in Ezekiel that Dan and Judah were to these people, right? The story of Hercules includes this big, strong guy with long locks that gets his hair cut off by a prostitute. What happens to Samson? He's a big, strong guy with long locks that gets his hair cut off by a prostitute. And in the midst of that, he loses his power. The myth of Hercules, he loses his power after his hair gets cut off, right? Something Hercules does that he's known for.
All right, I'm going to merchant. All right, let's start with the word merchant. Yeah. So in the Hebrew, the words, we have several words for merchant, right? We have anawash, right? Kind of Ain. This is Canaan. Right? So kind of Ainia, right? The Canaanites were known as merchants, great merchants. We had the word sachar, right? We had the word recall. We had the word thawar. I don't know where he's getting that from, but again, I would have to take a look at some sources that he may have. This is just a PowerPoint.
Especially if you've seen the one with the rock recently.
I don't see sources per se. I'm not saying the brother's lying or wrong, right? But let's see. I want to keep reading this. He says, later, after establishing themselves in Greece, they take over Javan and the Mycenaeans during the Dorian invasion in 1100 BC. From here, they are running Greece. From here, they have the people in Japheth in subjection, along with Edom. Macedon or Macedon, Philip, the father of Alexander, would defeat them, putting the Dorian and Lacedaemonian kings in captivity. 1 Maccabees 1-9, 1 Maccabees 12, 18 to 23. I don't know the validity of this, right? I would have to take a look into it. He could be cooking with grease. Could very well be cooking with grease. The problem is the Danites are idolaters. So in your attempt to combat what Deacon Hassad said about our brothers and sisters adhering to a calendar, a calendrical system that was given to them by the Romans, who gives a damn where the Romans got it from? Whoever they got it from, they were idol worshipers. That's confusion. That's not truth. Idols are not true. People who, there's a book in the Bible called Bel and the Dragon. One of the funniest stories in the Bible, right? One of the funniest stories in the Bible, right? And Daniel's just laughing at these Persian kings like, oh, king, trust me, Bel's not eating. Bel's not drinking, right? Your gods are not real gods. This is quite silly, but let's continue.
He kills a lion and rips his head off and wears the lion throughout time. The head of the lion, right? The Bible doesn't tell us he wore the head of the lion because that's part of the myth, right? He wouldn't do that as an Israelite. But not an Israelite in his right mind for idolatry and stuff, right? But he did kill the lion according to the story.
Not an Israelite in his right mind, but you're talking about the Danites, who are the ultimate idolaters. Dan's so goddamn idolatrous. Is Dan mentioned of the 144,000? Guys, can y'all let me know, is Dan numbered of the 144,000? Put a 1 in the chat if Dan is numbered of the 144,000, or put a 2 in the chat if they're not numbered of the 144,000. Right? Brother Quasar says no. They're not numbered of the 144,000 because they were just the worst type of idolaters. I just don't understand this talking point.
With his bare hands. The same story as Hercules. Why was it mythicized instead of the real story being told? Well, there's this thing called apotheosis, right? Let me go to that real quick.
All right, let's move
Can I
forward.
just type that up? Famous woman from the tribe of Dan named Helen, and we decided to name ourselves after her. No different than the people of Sparta, right? Are named after, the Lacedaemonians and the Spartans are named after Sparta, right? Which is a woman, right? We have the Scots, which are named after Queen Scotia.
Helen. So Helen comes from Hela, and you're saying this was a Danite woman. Okay. Hela, that doesn't even sound like, or Helen. Helen, that's not even Hebrew. Helen, maybe Halan. I'll give you that, but I would like to see a source. But let's continue.
Which is a woman, right? We just had a thing of naming our people after a king's wife, right? Lacedaemon was the king, Sparta was the queen, and Lacedaemon was what the name of the people was, but Sparta was also a different name of people that came from there, right? It's names of people from the tribe, though, that were later deified through the process of apotheosis. That's what the whole Greek gods had.
People deified. So again, you have the Danites deifying people, but and they're the ones who came up with the Greek pantheon and gave their calendar to the. I think he's going to try to say that they gave the calendar to the Romans. Still idolatry,
Right? All the historians also accredit this as well. They just don't say that the Danians are the tribe of Dan. You have to do your own research on that. It should be obvious at this point. They're being an adder in the way and leaving a trail wherever they go. They leave their name everywhere. Danin, Dorian, Danube River, Scandinavia. Everywhere they've been, they leave their name, right? But that's the history on Dan, right? To prove that we are the Greeks. You have Judah coming there, right? In 1000 BC as the Mycenaeans, proving Ezekiel also to be correct. When you look up the relationship between the Dorians and the Mousians, it tells you that they were of the same people. The Mousians later became the Anglo-Saxons, and the Dorians or Danians became the Danes, right? Okay, that's the history. You can get more of that on the channel in the class that we did, all right? So that's the proof of us being the tribe of Dan, right, which we are, and Judah being the Greeks, okay? Now, going back to the lesson, we see that the Greeks also had a practice of keeping a Saturday Sabbath that they called Sabbaton, right? The Greeks had a word for Sabbath called Sabbaton. What is the definition or etymology of Sabbaton? Sabbaton is a Greek word that refers to the 7th day of the week, a sacrifice festival when Israelites were required, Israelites were required to obtain or abstain from work. It can also refer to the institution of keeping the Sabbath day of the week holy. That's what Sabbaton means. It refers to the Israelites who were the Hellenes, who are the Greeks, and they kept the Sabbath.
Okay, so I want to see what the question he asked. Let's see. What's the question that he asked?
Right?
Yes, the Greeks had a word for Sabbath. Okay, so let's just look this up. Right? Did the Greeks have a word for Sabbath? Okay. Okay, so let's take a look, right? Yes, the Greeks had a word for Sabbath, Sabbaton. It's a transliteration of the Hebrew word Shabbat. The Greek word Sabbaton is used in the Septuagint, the Greek translation of the Old Testament and in the New Testament, to refer to the Sabbath day, the weekly day of rest. It can also refer to a week, right? So that's kind of how languages, this is the transliteration, right? The fact that this is a transliteration, what does that tell us, family? So Brother Zakaria says, Shalom, can you explain their position on why they go to a Greek word to prove Sabbath, Shabbat is Saturday? So I've never seen that position used to say that, the Sabbath is Saturday based off of that a particular Greek word. But what the brother Eliel is doing, right? Let's just go back real quick.
The Greeks had a practice of keeping a Saturday Sabbath.
Greeks had set. Let's see.
We see that the Greeks also had a practice.
Greeks had Sabbaton. Okay, cool. So that's what he typed in. So let's type it in. Greeks had Sabbaton. So I still didn't say AI answer as him. That's fine. That's not a problem, right? But that's what he typed in. But again, right, Brother Elio, I'm not sure if you know, but the Greek word Sabbaton is a transliteration of the Hebrew word Shabbath / Shabbathwan. Shabbath or Shabbathwan, Shabbaton, right? Even when you look at the word Shabbathwan in the Hebrew, right? Watch this. That's a content, right? Shabbathwan, right? But let's let our white friend here, our white compadre here on Blue Letter Bible, let's let him say it, right? Watch this.
Strong's H 7677. Shabbathon. Shabbathon.
Shabbathon. That's how they say it, right? That's how the small hats say it, right? So when you're going from Hebrew to Greek, right? There's no Greek equivalent for the sh character, right? So even for instance, Solomon's name is Shalamah, right? It's a sh character, right? This right here is a sh character, right? We have another character that has a sound. It's the samak, right? The samak character. I'll give you an example. Watch this. Watch this, family. We get a little Hebrew, little Greek language study as well in this, right? So boom, watch this. Judges 12:6. And they said unto him, say now Shibboleth, right? Say thou Shibboleth. And he said Sibboleth, for he could not frame to pronounce it right. Then they took him and slew him at the passage of the Jordan, and then he fell at that time. And there fell at that time of the Ephraimites 40,000, right? So this is a situation with the time of the judges, right? Jephthah and his successors, right? You know, and there was an individual, he could not pronounce Shibboleth, right? He couldn't pronounce the sh, so it's probably had a list. Sibboleth, right? So there's a difference between Shibboleth and Sibboleth, right? So let me show you, right? Shibboleth, Shabalath, right? And then you have Sabalath. He couldn't pronounce it. He used the Samach character, right? But in the Greek language, there's only one character that would represent either of these two Hebrew characters. You have the sigma, right? Phoenician to Greek to Latin. All right, boom. This right here is the evolution of the alphabet, right? So as you can see here, Phoenician, this is essentially Paleo-Hebrew, right? Same thing, right? Again, we see the Shah right here, Shah, and then we have the Sa, right? That becomes the Sa in Archaic Greek. This is the Archaic Greek language, right? Then you have the Archaic Latin, right? You have the Roman, right? Modern Latin, right? But even if we look at just the Greek language, right? Look at the Shah, right? The Shah becomes this in Archaic Greek, right? This is it in Archaic Latin, and then it's this S sound, which is equivalent to what? To the sigma character, right? Let's look up Greek alphabet. The word alphabet literally is Greek, right? Alpha is the first letter of the Greek alphabet, and beta is the second letter of the Greek alphabet, right? Alpha is the same as alap, right? You have the alap, right? And then you have the alpha, right? You have the bayath, or as our small hat friends will say, bet. And then you have beta in the Greek. Like, this is where it's coming from, right? So, listen, I have no doubt. Listen, the brother could be cooking with grease as it pertains to Dan, right? Having some influence on this language. I'm not disputing that, right? The problem is your attempt to combat the idolatry claim is to double down on the idolatry. And that's just insane to me, right? But let's get back into it.
Of keeping us.
Oh yeah, so the point that I was making, right? The reason why this point right here that the brother's making right here is a very moot point is because the word Sabbaton is a transliteration of the Greek word, of the Hebrew word Shabbath or Shabbathon. It's a transliteration. If it's a transliteration, it means that that word doesn't naturally occur in that language. But let's continue.
Sabbath that they called Sabbaton, right? The Greeks had a word for Sabbath called Sabbaton. What is the definition or etymology of Sabbaton? Sabbaton is a Greek word that refers to the 7th day of the week. A sacrifice.
So he says what is the definition or the etymology? The etymology is the origin. If you can faintly make out right here, what's the origin? It says Sabbaton comes from the Hebrew word Shabbat, which means rest. This is getting bad.
Festival when Israelites were required Israelites were required to obtain or abstain from work. it can also refer to the institution of keeping the Sabbath day of the week holy. That's what Sabbath time means.
Zakari, does that make sense to you? That explanation, does that make sense to you, brother? Put a 1 in the chat, right? If y'all are following along, right? Put a 1 in the chat. Let me know that you guys are following along and what I just laid out. It makes sense. Let's continue.
It refers to the Israelites who were the Hellenes, who are the Greeks, and they kept a 7-day Sabbath on Saturday. Now, Saturday, right? We're going to get to that in a second. I'm going to let Deacon say what he's going to say. But this is just proof as to why you need to know the history, right? Brothers don't know nothing about Greek. They think Greeks are heathen. Don't know that Greek is just a Roman word for Hellene, right? And Hellene goes back to the pantheon that the Israelite tribe of Dan made with Javan and the Mycenaeans, right? And Hellene is also the word for the Gentiles in the New Testament. So it only refers to the Israelites. Even Colossians.
It does not only refer to the Israelites, brother. Like that again, that is intellectually irresponsible. This brother is dead wrong. The word Hellene is not just used in reference to the Israelites. Now, by and large, in the New Testament specifically, the Hellene that they're talking about are the Israelites, right? But again, I showed you the example, Mark 7:24, right? Specifically verse 26, actually, right? It says what? It says there was, right, the woman of Canaan, or the woman was a Greek, right? What's the word for Greek? Hellenes, which is just the feminine way of saying what? Of saying Helen. So Helen is not just used, again, what does it say? Feminine of Helen. Is this Canaanite woman now an Israelite? I would love to know. Is the Canaanite woman in Matthew 15 and Mark 7, is that woman an Israelite now? Because let Brother Eliel tell it. Helene's only it's only about what it's only the Israelites. Let's listen to it again.
Don't know that Greek is just a Roman word for Hellene, right? And Hellene goes back to the pantheon that the Israelite tribe of Dan made with Javan and the
pantheon, the pagan pantheon. Okay,
right? And Hellene is also the word for the Gentiles in the New Testament, so it only refers to the Israelites.
It only refers to the Israelites. Wrong. Here we are in the so-called New Testament, in the word Hellene, right? Its feminine version, Hellenes, because that's how Greek works, right? You have to make it gender. You have to make it equivalent in gender, right? Same thing with Hebrew, right? Same thing with Spanish. Same thing with French, right? You wouldn't say la niño. You wouldn't say el niña. You would say el niño, la niña, el abuelo, la abuela. You wouldn't say los abuelas. That doesn't make sense. You have to match the gender of the nouns and the pronouns, right? And the adjectives, right? That's what you do with language, because languages have rules. Every language has its own rules. Okay? So this brother is wrong, dead wrong, when he says it's only used in reference to the Israelites. We gotta stop just making flat blanket statements like this, because a Christian with a little sense would dissect this argument. I don't want to hear an Israelite ever say Hellene is only used in reference to Israelites, because it's just not true. I'll give you another example, right? Let's go to John chapter 7. Whither will he go, right? Check this out, right? John 7:34. Just get the context. It says, "Ye shall seek me and shall not find me, and where I am, thither ye cannot come." Then said the Jews among themselves, "Whither will he go, that we shall not find him? Will he go unto the dispersed among the Gentiles and teach the Gentiles?" So now let's do a little parsing, right? Let's look at this word for Gentiles, right? This word translated as Gentiles is the Greek word Helen. Helen. It appears twice. Helen. and it's inflected in two different manners for a particular reason. I'll demonstrate, right? It says, will he go to the dispersed, the diasporan of the Hellenon? Diasporan down Hellenon, right? Malay, what this would be, foreign destai, yeah, right? And this is Kai diadekeng daus Hellenas. So we have diasporan. Will he go to the dispersed among the Hellenon and teach the Hellenas, right? So diasporan is in the what accusative case, right? What is the accusative case? Salakia. Watch this. Diasporan, right? Accusative case. Right? Accusative case refers to the case used for a noun or pronoun that is the direct object. His disciples came to him and showed him the buildings of the temple, right? So diasporan, all right, is in the accusative case. Then you have the word Hellenon. It's in the genitive case. So this case does not match up with this case. The diasporan, right? They're dispersed amongst these people, right? And who are these people? The Hellenon, right? Gentiles, or properly Greeks, amongst the dispersed amongst the Greeks, right? It's in the genitive case, denoting that what, right? For a noun or pronoun, actually to show description, right? And then it says, and teach the Hellenas. The Hellenas is, in the accusative case. So here, this word right here, Hellenas, this is talking about Israelites. This word right here, Hellenon, is not talking about Israelites. It's talking about the Greeks, actual Greeks. But let Brother Eliel tell it. Hellen is only used in reference to the Israelites. Let's listen to him one more time.
Right? To the pantheon that the Israelite tribe of Dan made with Javan and the Mycenaeans, right? And Helene is also the word for the Gentiles in the New Testament. So it only refers to the Israelites.
It only refers to the Israelites. You're wrong. It does not only refer to the Israelites. You don't know what you're talking about. You're not a linguist.
Even theological history tells you that. That's why we're able to break down the debates with vocab McNuts and all them people, right? Because we teach who the Hellenes are with the definition of Greek, right? As we saw, did the Greeks call themselves Greek? Deacon? Hassan? No. The ancient Greeks did not. The ancient Greeks referred to themselves as Hellenes. Who are the Hellenes? The Gentile Israelites.
Again, not every instance the word Hellene is used. It's used in reference to an Israelite. We have the Canaanite woman. We have the Hellene, the Hellenon that the Israelites, the Hellenas, are dispersed amongst. Why? Because they were Hellenized. By who? Not by themselves. Like, what are we talking about? Make sure you guys like and share the video.
And come about 584 BC. When did the Israelites get to Greece? 1400 BC and 1100 BC for the tribe of Judah in the southern kingdom, right? 584 BC, they've been in the land 500.
Now here's another problem, right? He says the word Hellenes first appeared in writing around 584 BC, right? That's irrelevant, right? And I'll tell you why. Because this is an argument they use against the Bible all the time. It's like, oh, the earliest manuscript is from this century. Because documents don't last forever, right? Just because this is the first time that they are seeing it appear is in this time period doesn't mean that it never appeared in literature prior to. Doesn't mean that at all, right? Doesn't mean that at all because what could be a possibility? That we don't have any of these writings because writings don't last forever.
Negro. Hellene is what they were called. That's why they were called Israelites that much in the New Testament. They referred to them as Hellene because we were the people that made that word. It was a word that we used to refer to ourselves as. Just like we call ourselves nigga today. Right? Right. There's nothing.
What? That wasn't even, that didn't even make sense. Put a one in the chat that makes sense to you. that correlation makes sense to you, family. Put a 1 in the chat if that correlation made a lick of sense to you. Oh, it's a word that we refer to ourselves just like nigga. We call ourselves nigga today. So we create the term nigga? No, we did not. The word nigga goes back to the Greek word niged. That's what it goes back to. Niged, right? In Spanish, you got negro. That's where the word nigger comes from. David, you said repent and come to the true Christ. Come. I'm gonna put a link in the chat. Come and convert me to the true Christ. I would love to have a conversation with you, brother. Let's continue.
Under the sun, we refer to ourselves as bywords. We've done it. Helene is a byword in the Bible known for that, but you guys are making it seem like it's freckles, right? The Romans took everything they got from the Greeks, which is us. Deacon is about to tell you in a second that the Israelites had no influence whatsoever on the Greeks, right? You're about to see him say it on the camera. But the fact is, the Israelites were the Greeks. If you know anything about it,
it's just a stupid. That's not like you. Oh my God, the Israelites were the Greeks. But I just showed 2 examples of Israelites, of non-Israelites being called Greek. We were called Greek because we were Hellenized.
So we actually had every influence on them. They didn't go all the way to Babylon. I'm about to prove that too, though, right? Let's get the lesson back up, and then we'll break down some more stuff.
This is how we calculate our Sabbath and calendar according to the Bible. Right?
Wait, hold on. He also said that days are calculated by the moon. Good brother, big brother Boaz. Are you there? You're awake, my friend.
Yeah.
Let's get the book of Genesis like we did on Monday.
Okay.
Let's get the book of Genesis and prove that days can't constitute or be constituted or determined by the moon if days were made before the moon was given its job to be the moon.
Oh my God. Brothers gotta stop it. Brothers really got this. He's about to just say something really stupid, right? Oh, how can the moon determine the days when the days existed before the moon was created? Those are not literal days in Genesis 1. They're not literal days. They're just not. Right? Let's go to the Bible real quick. Right? Let's go to the book of 2 Peter 3:8. But beloved, be not ignorant of this one thing. Don't be ignorant of this one thing. That one day is with the Lord as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years as one day. Right? What's this one in Psalms as well? It's at Psalms 90 and 8, I believe. Psalm 90 and 8. No, that Psalms 98. Damn, what's that precept in Psalms? I can't find it, right? But there's another precept in the book of Psalms that corroborates 2 Peter 3:8, right? That a day is 1,000 years with the Lord. So creation week is not literal days. But that would negate the fact of what God said in Genesis 1:14, right? That he created these things. And God said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night. Divide daylight from the nighttime. And let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and for years. When is the beginning of our year? The beginning of our year, all right? Hold on real quick. Sister Shelly Burke, the Wadaway Yabaraki Habashim Yahshua for your continuing support, sister. Truly appreciate you, right? The beginning of our year is the month of Abib. What does Abib start with? What does the month start with? A moon, the new moon, right? The new moon, hence the word in Hebrew is chadash, right? That word's also translated as month or monthly. New moon, new month, monthly. That's what the word chadash means, because the moon determines when the month begins, right? The month begins on a day, and a day is from evening to evening. What light rules over the evening? Oh, the moon. What are we talking about, bro? A day, you will not know that a day began without the moon. Let's go back real quick.
He also said that days are calculated by the moon. Good brother, big brother Boaz. Are you there?
He said that if that was far-fetched. The day begins at even. And the moon is without at even. The sun sets and the moon comes out, because the moon's job is to rule over the night. What are we talking about? And we're just looking at a pattern here, right, of creation, right? In the evening and the morning were the first day. In the evening and the morning were the second day. In the evening and the morning were the third day, fourth day, fifth day, sixth day, right? Last time I checked, the new moon, which starts the new month, that's in the evening time. It starts the first day of the month. That's the purpose of it. God created it for a reason.
Yeah.
Let's get the book of Genesis like we did on Monday.
Okay.
Let's get the book of Genesis and prove that days can't constitute or be constituted or determined by the moon if days were made before the moon was given its job to be the moon.
So what constitutes the day then, Eliel? Is it the sun? But wasn't the sun made the same day as the moon? This does not make sense. This doesn't make sense. Bro thinks he's cooking right now, right? Respectfully, bro thinks he's really whipping it up. This makes zero sense. You're not cooking right now. This is nonsense.
Right? On the fourth day, the sun was made to be the light that divides the day from the night, and the moon was made to be the light that divides the night from the day. But it was on day 4. So the fact that day 1, day 2, day 3 are called day, that would mean days were made before the moon, right? So the moon can't constitute the days. Something else to show you guys before Boaz brings that up. Right?
Again, the most moot point ever. This is just a stupid line of logic. I would love to know what constitutes the day then.
Is the moon cycle perfect?
You ask me?
It's just a question. If the moon cycle is not perfect, but we have a perfect 24 hours in a day, 12 for the day and 12 for the night, how could the day be determined by the moon? If the moon doesn't change every day.
Are not months made up of days?
How could the day be determined by the moon? There's some days, especially when you look at a moon cycle app or calendar, the moon could be dark for 2 days. It could be a first sliver, a crescent for 3 days, 2.5 days, right? For a quarter of a day. It's inconsistent, but days are consistent. We have clocks to measure how consistent they are. So we don't have to go by the white man for that. I'm sure somewhere it is.
We have clocks. We didn't have clocks back then, though. What are you talking? Are y'all following? Are y'all following? Like, huh? He has to be saying that. He says the moon doesn't constitute the day. Okay, let's continue.
You can prove a black guy created the clock, right? We're about to prove a black guy created the name for clock. My watch says Chronos in cursive. All of them do, right? Chronos means time. It's a word from the Greek. The Greeks are the Israelites. Greek is the language that first makes up the English language, right? Greek is the language that the Latin comes from, and Latin is the language that the Romans made the language of the land. Why? Because they didn't make Greek. Just like they didn't keep speaking our Hebrew, they speak Yiddish using our characters, right? They speak Latin using our characters. Greek. There's no new thing under the sun, brother, right? Proof, Greek.
The brother's just conflating a whole bunch of stuff right now. Yes, the Latin language comes from the Greek language. The Greek language comes from the Greek. I want to in the language. I wouldn't even necessarily say the language. The Latin script specifically comes from the Greek script. The Greek script comes from the Phoenician/Hebrew script, right? And most scholars will tell you that those scripts come from the Egyptian script. But none of that has anything to do with whether or not Friday to Saturday, this concept of Friday to Saturday, and this calendrical system that brothers are presently using, that it does not come from the Roman Empire, which is a pagan empire. The Bible says, learn not the way of the heathen. Learn not the way of the heathen. But, you know, the Jews, the Danites are all the Greeks and only the Greeks. Let this brother tell you. This is bad. This is very bad.
Okay? Latin. Alphabet. It's the same thing, just cursive. All right?
It's not cursive, but okay.
Latin script. It's the same thing, just look different. It's Greek, the same characters, right? And this looks very similar to Hebrew, don't it? Oh, why? Because they all come from us. Why do you think the elders say that? You think they just pulled it out the ass? No, they know history. Something brothers need to learn, right? Okay, so back to it. The Greeks are the Hellenes, and the Hellenes are Israelites. So the Greeks had everything to do with what happened with the Romans. Days, he says, are determined by the moon. Can you read me the book of Genesis, brother?
This is
I saw the light. That was good.
Second day, the time period between the first day and the second day can't be constituted by the moon because something specific is going to happen on the fourth day. Another by the days, in which all this we're going to go over in this lesson here, right? And the Chaldeans are people that made the 7-day calendar under King Sargon, the Chaldean, right? the Scorpion king, right? So Abraham being born under that system kept that same system, and then Moses being born under that system.
Whoa.
Ham was a Chaldean, which we know that because weeks come from a calendar and a block that was made, which we're going to prove later on, right? Which the Most High gave us a form of, because he knew that we came from the Babylonians, because Abraham was a Chaldean, which all this we're going to go over in this lesson here.
This brother is in this video touting as if he is the supreme historian in the nation of Israel. And he's saying brothers don't know history. And he said that Abraham was a Chaldean. Oh my God. Brother Eliel, you should delete this video. Chaldean. Chaldees. Watch this. It says, and Haran died before his father Terah in the land of his nativity in Ur of the Chaldees, right? So just so you guys understand why it says that, right? Because this is where Abraham was from. He's from the city of Ur, right? Or a war, right? It says of the Chaldees. We're going to look at this word Chaldees and what its etymological root, right? This right here is called an anachronism, right? This is called an anachronism. Anachronism, a thing belonging to or appropriate to a period other than that in which it exists, specifically a thing that is conspicuously old-fashioned, right? So what exactly does this mean, right? Let me break it down for you, right, family? For instance, when you look at the archaeological records, right, if you want to find the Israelites in Egypt, right, the archaeological site is known as Avaris, right? Ramses, right, was built on top of Avaris. So when it says that the children of Israel built great cities for Pharaoh, right, Ramses, right, Ramses, right, in the land of Ramesses, right, this is an anachronism. What we have to understand is that our text, our law, right, and our records were burnt when the Babylonians, right, like destroyed Jerusalem, right? And for the records, right, Babylon was established by Nimrod. Nimrod is a son of who? A son of Cush. So the Cushites established and created Babylon, right? You had various different ethnic groups that ruled Babylon, right? You had the Amorites. You had the Amorites, because Hammurabi is an Amorite, right? You had the Amorite state, they ruled in Babylon. You have Elamites that ruled in Babylon, right? And then when we see Nebuchadnezzar and his father Nabopolassar, they're of the Chaldeans, right? And I'm going to show you who the Chaldeans are. This man said that Abraham was a Chaldean. But when we're looking here in Genesis, right, when it says that Haran died before his father Terah in the land of his nativity in Ur of the Chaldees. So Haran is the father of Lot, the brother of Abraham, right? They were born in Ur. Abraham is of Ur of the Chaldees, right? Even here, right? It says, and Terah took Abraham his son, and Lot, the son of Haran, his son's son, and Sarai, his daughter-in-law, his son Abram's wife, and they went forth with them from Ur of the Chaldees to go into the land of Canaan, and they came to Haran and dwelt there, right? So again, this is an anachronism. Why? Because when was this rewritten? Oh, when you read Second Ezra, the scribe, had to rewrite all of the Torah, right? Let's actually get that, right? Let me get it real quick, just to not just say things and not prove it, right? Watch this, family. Oh my God. Let's go to Second Ezra chapter 14. Watch this, family. This brother really just said that Abraham was a Chaldean. But he's the history guy. This is terrible. This is god awful, right? I'm gonna start at verse 20, right? It says, behold, Lord, I will go as thou hast commanded me, and reprove the people which are present. But they that shall be born afterward, who shall admonish them? Thus the world is set in darkness, and they that dwell therein are without light. Right? It's talking specifically about Israel, right? Because we don't have a law. The law is our light, right? Proverbs 23. For the commandment is the lamp, and the law is light, and reproofs of instructions are the way of life. Verse 21. For thy law is burnt. Therefore no man knoweth the things that are done of thee, or the works that shall begin. But if I have found grace before thee, send the Holy Spirit into me, and I shall write all that have been done in the world since the beginning, which were written in thy law, that men may find thy path, that they which will live in the latter days may live. And we're living by the law right now, right? Because Ezra had to rewrite it. Because it was burnt when who? The Chaldeans came and destroyed our temple and burnt Jerusalem. So now, let's go back, right? Let's go to Chaldean. Brother David, I'll see you in the back chat. I'll bring you on in a second, brother. Right? Kashadima, right? Kashadima, right? Let's go real quick. Where we at? Okay. Give me one. Okay, well, here we go. Previous Trump. Kashad. All right, watch this. Kashadia, right? Chaldean, right? Chaldean. The inhabitants of Chaldea living in the lower Euphrates and Tigris. Those persons considered the wisest in the land by extension, right? So the Neo-Babylonian Empire, right, was ruled by the Chaldeans. Who are the Chaldeans, right? How do you say Chaldean in Hebrew? Kashadia. 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 The yah denotes that you belong to Kashad, right? For instance, right, to be a Jew, right, Yehowadim, right, or Yehowadia, right? The yah means that you belong to who? Judah, Yahweh. Same way, for instance, Canaanite will be Canaan yah, right? Canaan is Canaan. Canaanite is Canaan yah. The yah denotes that you belong to, right? For instance, Ruth is called a Moabitess, right? Moabba Yah, right? That's the feminine way of saying you belong to Moab. She's a daughter of Moab, Moabba Yah, right? So who is Kesed, right? Who is Kesed? Right? Let's keep going. This is Aramaic corresponding to this, right? And who do these people go back to? It says right here, check this out. It says patronymically from Strong's H3777. Kashad. Well, who is Kashad? Let's read. Oh, Genesis 22 and verse 22. Let's read up a little bit, right? I'll start here, verse 19. It says, so Abraham returned unto his young men, and they rose up and went together to Beersheba, and Abraham dwelt at Beersheba. And it came to pass after these things that was told Abraham, saying, behold, Milcah, she hath also borne children unto thy brother Nahor. Nahor is his younger brother, right? Huz, his firstborn, and Buz, his brother, and Kemuel, the father of Aram, and Kesed, and Hazo, and Pildash, and Jidlaph, and Bethuel. Bethuel begat Rebekah. These 8 Milcah did bear to Nahor, Abraham's brother, right? So Kesed, let's look at Kesed. Kashad. The Chaldeans are the sons of Abraham's nephew, Kesed. But Eliel from the Anointed House of Sage just told us that Abraham was a Chaldean. Brother, that's horrible understanding of biblical history. But looks like we got a guest real quick. Give me a second. Watch this. Boom. Hold on, David.
How you doing, man? What's going
How's
on?
everything? Good.
God is good, bro. I can't.
So you were the brother that was saying that we need to come to the true Christ?
Yeah, man.
Who's the true Christ?
Yeah, man. Absolutely. Absolutely, bro.
Who's the true Christ?
I would believe that Christ is.
You cut now. Say that again.
He is God manifest in the flesh, right? He is Yahweh in the flesh. He's never been created.
Christ has never
Is it hard
been created?
to hear me? Hello?
Yeah. Is your Wi-Fi on your phone?
Can you hear me?
It looks like yeah, I can hear you now. But you going in and out. Turn your Wi-Fi off if you're not at home. Looks like you're out and about.
Might be this. Hello?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can't even see you now. I can't even see you now.
Turn your Wi-Fi off, David. David, can you hear me? All right, David, we'll have to get you on next time, right? So, David, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put my email in the chat. Shoot me an email. We can set up a dialogue. When you're like stationary, when you're home, like with good Wi-Fi, we can have a conversation. All right. So again, actually, let me put my email right for our brother David. Right. So anyway, right, our brother Eliel just said that Abraham was a Chaldean.
Right. Because he knew that we came from the Babylonians. Weeks, I would say, are constituted by the days, right? Right. Yes, our months are constituted by the day. Something specific's gonna happen on the fourth day.
Damn.
The light from the darkness, and God called the light day.
As consistently as the days, or at the same time and period. Because weeks come from a calendar and a block that was made, which we're going to prove later on, right? Which the Most High gave us a form of, because he knew that we came from the Babylonians, because, Abraham was a Chaldean.
He said the Most High gave us, oh, I would love you to show me that.
Which all this we're going to go over in this lesson here, right? And the Chaldeans are people that made the 7-day calendar under
the Chaldeans are people who made the 7-day calendar. Read. Let's continue.
Sargon, the Chaldean, right? the Scorpion King, right? So Abraham being born under that system kept that same system, and then Moses being born under that system as an Israelite, though he was in Egypt, which kept a 10-day system, he was brought up keeping a 7-day system. And the proof of that is the fact that once he left and went through the Exodus, the Most High gives us months, which are tracked by the moon, right? That we can block in a 7-day system the way we do now. All right. So,
but that doesn't even make sense, because a lunar cycle is not a complete. It's not divisible by 7. Equal. It's not equally divisible by 7. So that, like, he's just saying these things. There's been zero proof.
You got something?
How many days did it say? Because it said you asked it. Something like that. But how many days are supposed to be?
Sometimes it's 31 and a half, it says. So is it 29 and a half or 31 and a quarter? I mean,
but how many are we supposed to be counting?
How in Israel would they measure 31 and a quarter, nigga? Back in the day. How they gonna do that? They got a calculator?
This is all very moved. None of this makes sense. None of this is relevant.
But whatever kind of scope you got.
All right. Second day. Let's go to verse 13.
The firmament
Called the sun. This can't be stars, right? Because we don't see stars in the daytime. Now, mind you, this can't be stars, right? Because we don't see stars in the daytime, unless you're talking about the star called the sun, right? Okay, so it's got to be the moon and the sun. I mean, yeah, right? Go ahead.
They said it could be for seasons and days and years. And let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven.
Which one is for days and which one is for seasons and moons and stuff, right? Because one of them you use for everything, one of them is used for specific things. The sun is used for everything, right?
Right.
The moon you can't use for days specifically because it doesn't change with the days. But you know what does change with the days? The sun.
What? Did y'all just hear that? Did y'all just hear this, brother?
Of the heaven.
Which one is for days and which one is for seasons and moons and stuff, right? Because one of them you use for everything, one of them is used for specific things.
One can be used for everything, one is used for specific things. Okay, cool. Let's
use for everything, right?
Right.
The moon you can't use for days specifically.
The moon you can't use for days specifically
because it doesn't change with the days.
But it doesn't change with the days. Did this brother just say that the moon does not change with the days? Does the sun And he said the sun changes every day. Does the sun change every day? The position in the sky, it changes slightly every day, right? But when you look at the sun, well, the sun today, it's just bright. And look at tomorrow, it's just bright. Does the moon change daily? The 8 lunar phases are in order: new moon, waxing, crescent, fixed quarter, waxing gibbous, full moon, waning gibbous. Let's look at moon phases. There are phases of the moon. There are no phases of the sun. I thought the moon doesn't change with the days. What are they talking about?
It does change with the days, the sun, right? Since everything comes from the white man.
Guys, when you guys went outside today, did the moon look? Did the sun look different than it did yesterday? If you guys were outside today or yesterday or the day before yesterday or any day in your life, has the sun looked different? Yes, it's going to be in a different position in the sky as it moves in the firmament. But does it look different? This brother just says that the sun changes every day, but the moon does not. What are we talking about?
According to Genesis, right? The good old white man is giving us a clock that we're about to see Greeks who are Israelite Hellenes actually created, right? And they named it Cronus, which the white man still calls and puts on all his clocks and watches today, ironically. But they made everything, right? So
looks like David is back, right? David, what's going on, man? Can you hear me, David? David. David. David.
Hello?
Yes, can you hear me?
Hey, man. Yeah, forgive me that my phone actually, I'm like in a restaurant, then my phone dies. Like this charger that I have is like kind of whack,
David,
bro.
David,
So
David.
if it dies, it
Yeah, so you don't have a really good connection, right? But what we can do, what I'm gonna do, right? Get back. I'm gonna remove you. Right? I'm gonna get back into this lesson, right?
I can't even see you, bro.
That's fine. Can you hear me?
Face, man. Let me try to stand up. Let me see this.
Can you hear me though? David. Can you hear me?
Hello, hello, hello.
Yes, David. Can you hear me? All right, David. All right, we're gonna kick David from the studio. We're gonna get back into the lesson, right? Family, please, someone copy my email, right? One of my moderators, please copy my email and tell David to email me because he has bad connection, and we can set up a dialogue, right? But let's get back into this. This brother Eliel just told us that the moon does not change every day. But earlier it says the moon could be dark for 2 days, and then the first slither, and then another. Like the Bible, which we all claim to believe, let's take a look at it real quick, right? Ecclesiasticus, Sirach, chapter 43. Watch this. It says, I'm gonna start from the top. The pride of the height declare firmament, the beauty of heaven with his glorious show. The sun, when it appeareth, declaring at his rising a marvelous instrument, the work of the Most High. At noon it parcheth the country, and who can abide the burning heat thereof? A man blowing a furnace is in works of heat, but the sun burneth the mountains 3 times more, breathing out fiery vapors and sending forth bright beams. It dimmeth the eyes. That's it every day. Great is the Lord that made it, and at his commandment it runneth hastily. Now, this right here proves that that whole globular system that they taught us, that the earth revolves around the sun. It says that the sun runneth hastily, not that the earth runs around the sun, right? But let's continue. Verse 6, he made the moon also to serve in her season, for a declaration of times and a sign of the world. For the moon is the sign of feasts, and it's just a coinky dink that the first feast mentioned in Leviticus 23, where we see the feast days spelled out all together, the Sabbath is the first feast mentioned. It says a light that decreaseth in her perfection. If the light decreaseth as well as increases, that means it changes. Let's continue. The month is called after her name, increasing wonderfully in her what? Changing. Brother Eliel just told us that the moon does not change, but the sun does. What is this brother talking about?
We got Cronus, right? Time, and the Most High seems to be giving us hours from the white man, right? 12 of them, which also happens to be how many tribes we have. But they made that, right? There must be 12 sons of Esau somewhere that I don't know about. But
how many dukes of Edom? It says 11, but let's go ahead real quick. Actually, let me just go to the Bible. So do. All right. These were the dukes of the sons of Esau, right? The sons of Eliphaz, Esau, Duke Teman, Duke Omar, Duke Zepho, Duke Kenaz, Duke Korah, Duke Atam, Duke Amalek. These are the dukes that come from Eliphaz, that came from Eliphaz in the land of Edom, right? So we got 7 so far. And these are the sons of Reuel, Esau's sons, Duke Nadath, Duke Zerah, Duke Shema, Duke Mizah. These are the dukes that came from Reuel in the land of Edom. These are the sons of Bashmeth, Esau's wife. And these are the sons of Aholibama, Esau's wife, Duke Jeush, Duke Jalam, Duke. So it's a bunch of dukes of Edom, right? More than 12, right? But so the number of sons of Israel is a correlation of the number of hours. But that was 24 hours. Like this is just.
So we got that, right? If you put the 12 and the 12 together for like the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom split, like we got the split between the day and the night. I just did some Aharayhla stuff, right? That's not doctrine. That's just me saying stuff. But look. So we got 12 and 12 is 24, right?
Hold on. What?
Southern kingdom split. So we got that, right? If you put the 12 and the 12 together for like the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom split.
The 12 and 12 together for the northern kingdom and southern kingdom split. The northern kingdom and southern kingdom split. You split 12. You got 3 in the southern kingdom. That means you got what? Depending on how you're counting it, if you're counting Joseph as 1, you got 9. How's that 12 and 12 now 24? Like, what are we talking about?
Like we got the split between the day and the night. I just did some Aharayhla stuff, right? That's not doctrine. That's just me saying stuff. But look. So we got 12 and 12 is 24, right? But that's a block of time that we can calculate with the sun. You can't do that with the moon. So I actually beg to differ. Days are not constituted by the moon at all, only the sun, right? Keep reading.
See, what he's doing is he's conflating daylight and a day. A day is made up of evening and morning, right? The evening and the morning were the first day. The evening and the morning were the second day, the third day, the fourth day, so forth and so forth, right? There's 12 hours. There's not even always 12 hours of daylight, right? Because we have this thing called equinoxes, where it's equal night, equal day, right? Then you have the equinoxes. What's the opposite of the equinox? It's escaping me, right? So it's not always 12 hours of daylight and 12 hours of night. But a day is a 24-hour period. Evening, morning, daylight, night.
And let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven, to give light upon the earth. And it was so. And God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also.
Man, we already had a day and a night. It was separated at the beginning in the first chapter. You know, this is talking about the stars and the moon. Well, how come both of those come out at night, nigga? What's dividing the daytime, like he just said right there? About the stars and the moon. Man, we already had a day.
Firmament of the heaven, to give light upon the earth.
So look, once again, this can't be, man, we already had a day and a night. It was separated at the beginning in the first chapter. You know, this is talking about the stars and the moon. Well, how come both of those come out at night, nigga? What's dividing the daytime, like he just said right there? Smart guy. So don't say that. Don't bring that to the...
Like, this style of argumentation is just terrible. This is bad. This is really bad. David says, when I leave this place and plug it in the car, I should be better in work. But I understand if you would rather speak to me later. Yeah, David, we're gonna speak at a different time. David, this is my email, right? Email me and we can set up a designated time for you and I to have a conversation about the scriptures together, like this, okay? So email, I just it's right here, right? I'm gonna star it. David, copy my email, send me an email, and we can have a conversation. All right, brother? Let's continue, because this is just nonsense.
Right. That came out in the debate, ironically. I think it was on accident, but I remember that. So yeah, don't do that. Just saying. So yeah, that's just proof days do not come from the moon. To think so is ludicrous.
Right.
When does a day begin, Eliel? That's what I would love to know. When does a day begin? Any Saturn saints, any Friday, Saturday, Sabbath keepers? When does a day begin?
Whether we use today and its predecessors didn't even exist at the time God appointed the Holy Sabbath day.
Hold on.
Now, he said the calendar we use wasn't done when the God appointed the Holy Sabbath day, right? He appointed the Holy Sabbath day officially with the Exodus, correct? During the commandments, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, the Exodus and the commandments is way after Mesopotamia, correct?
Okay.
All right. So Mesopotamia, for those of you guys who don't know, is the place where we call it the Greeks. That's what the Greeks named the place Abraham is from as a whole, right? We called it Mesopotamia, as in the land of the land between two rivers, right? That's what it means. We named it that because we had, history with the rivers being Hebrews, people that crossed them, right? Not the river Ron Dalton was talking about, but the river Deacon was talking about, right? Ironically, it's crazy. So yeah, Deacon seems to think, even though he knows which river we're talking about, that the Greek people that made Mesopotamia got their calendar that they gave to the Romans, right? Or that I wouldn't say gave, that the Romans stole from them, right? And just renamed it, right? Like the Gregorian calendar. Niggas from them certain camps that keep the lunar calendar called the Gregorian calendar. But the Gregorian calendar is just the calendar that was named Gregorian. It was called something else before that. They got the Julian calendar, which uses the same dates and stuff as the Gregorian calendar, right? One of them just has the day or something like that. But it's the same block, right? Same dates and stuff as the Gregorian calendar, right? One of them just has extra day or something like that. But it's the same block, right? Except
the Gregorian calendar is a revision of the Julian calendar. And when the Gregorian calendar was put into place in 1582, if I'm not mistaken on the number, they just added 11 days. It added 11 days. And know what the purpose was? It was for? To get Easter, not Passover, but Easter in alignment. You want to know why? Because the Julian calendar, which is a revision of the Roman calendar, is a terrible calendrical system, which came from who? From the Roman Empire, which the Bible calls Satan and the devil. The same Bible that says in Daniel the 7th chapter that they would think to change laws and times. This brother just does not know what he's talking about. Prince of Judah, the Waterway Yabaraki, how about Shimmy Shar for your super chat, King? Appreciate you.
8 weeks. So it's like, where'd they get that from? The Greeks, right? Where'd the Greeks get that from? Was it Satan? If the Greeks weren't Satan and they're Israelites, where'd the Greeks get it from?
Gotta just stop saying this blanketly that the Greeks are Israelites. That's just intellectually irresponsible.
From forefather Abraham, right? Proof. Let's see if we could find something that says that. We already know history about the Greeks. Let's get some history about Babylon. Do y'all remember at Anointed House of Saints, right? Because we do history over here. We taught you guys the lesson about the Babylonians, right? In the captivity, right? Assyria and Babylon. We went into the Babylonians and the Assyrians and where they come from in the first part of that lesson. It was 2 parts, right? And we showed you guys Sargon and all the Chaldean kings that ruled in Babylon and Assyria, right? So when we go through that, right, we find out even in the Bible that Abraham, right, was born of Ur of the Chaldees, right, which is a place in Babylon. So Abraham, technically, by definition, would have been, right, we say all the time, Abraham's not an Israelite. But niggas never say what Abraham is. Abraham was a Mesopotamian Babylonian.
He was not a Babylonian. He lived in Ur, and Ur is a different city than Babel. Let's see, map of Assyrian Empire. These are some terrible pictures. Goodness gracious. Let's try like this. Watch this. Lord Christ. This is just. All right, so here's Babylon. Babylon's a city, right? Let's see. Map. That's a good one. Let's see. Lord Christ, these pictures are garbage. Gotta find the right one. Okay, so here's guys. You see this? Here's right? You have Uruk, right? You have Larsa. Is Larsa the same as Uruk? No. Is Larsa the same as No. And where's Babylon? Oh, it's all the way up here. Let's go back to what the brother said.
But niggas never say what Abraham, technically, by definition, would have been, right? We say all the time, Abraham's not an Israelite. But niggas never say what Abraham is.
So Abraham, technically, by definition, guys, is a what?
Abraham was a Mesopotamian Babylonian.
A Mesopotamian Babylonian. How can he be a Babylonian when he's from fucking Ur? He's not from Babylon. Lord in Christ.
From Ur and a Chaldean, which is a sect of the Mesopotamian Babylonians, right? Or the Sumerians, as other people call them, right?
The Sumerians are not the fucking Chaldeans, brother. I don't know where you're getting this history from. I really don't know where he's getting this from. He's just making this shit up. He's just winging it right now. This man said that Abraham was a Mesopotamian Babylonian, but the Bible says that Abraham was from Ur. And where is Ur? Ur is down here. Here's Babylon. How is he a Mesopotamian Babylonian? But he's the history guy. This is the history guy. They do history over there.
In 2166 BC, right? Now watch this. Deacon told us that the calendar that we got came from the Babylonians, right? The Babylonians is who Abraham comes from, right? But then he said it was transferred.
Abraham does not come from the Babylonians. Like, I don't think this brother understands that Babylon was ruled by various different people. Babylon was an ancient city located in the lower Euphrates River in southern Mesopotamia, within the modern-day Aharayhla, Iraq, right? Let's see. Babylon functioned as the main cultural political center of the Akkadian-speaking region of Babylonia, right? So region, Babylonia is a region, but Babylon specifically is a city, right? Even when we just, let's type in Babel. Right? Genesis 10 in verse 8. It says, and Cush begat Nimrod, and he began to be a mighty one in the earth, and he was a mighty hunter before Yahweh. Wherefore it was said, even Nimrod, the mighty hunter before Yahweh. And the beginning of his kingdom was where? Babel, right? Mawatha Babal, right? This is the beginning of his kingdom. Whose kingdom? Nimrod. Nimrod is a Cushite. In Erech, in Akkad, in Calneh, in the land of Shinar. Akkad is where we get the term Akkadian from. Let's see if Akkad is on. If Akkad is even on. Akkad. Akkad, right? Akkadian, right? So let's take a look here. They don't even know exactly where Akkad is, per se. It's a question that is right here, right? But again, notice how right? This is a different city, right? This region, this is like what we got to understand when we're reading Genesis 10. This is like humanity repopulating the earth, right? The sons of Japheth, not sons of Japheth, the sons of Noah, they had wives. They are the progenitors of everyone that lives on the earth today. And these people are spreading over the earth, right? And rebuilding civilization, right? And why is Mesopotamia also known as the Fertile Crescent? Because it's called what? The birthplace of civilization. So again, I don't think the brother understands that Babylon was ruled by various different people. The first being a Cushite by the name of Nimrod. Is Abraham a Cushite? No, he's not. Let's continue.
From the Babylonians straight past the Greeks to the Romans, right? But the Greeks were us, and the Romans stole everything from us. We're going to prove that. Before that, though, right? When was this calendar made? Because let's prove it was actually in existence. It was in existence when the Most High instituted the Holy Sabbath. Because Deacon said it wasn't, right? Let's refresh your memory right quick.
Didn't even exist for you today, and its predecessors didn't even exist at the time God appointed the Holy Sabbath day.
Deacon thinks this because through his rushed history, right? I love you, brother. But through his rushed history, you went through and said that the Greeks, or the Romans rather, right, created this calendar. But then you went back, double back, and said the Babylonians created this calendar, right? Well, which one is it? Because there's two types of Babylonians, right? There's the Babylonians that put us in captivity, and then there's the Babylonians before them, which, would be like the people of Akkad and Uruk, right? Mesopotamia, right? There's a Babylonian from them too.
What? Oh my God. How can someone of Uruk be a Babylonian? Babylon, Babel is a city that was ruled by various peoples. Let's continue. Let's go back. Where was our? All right, boom. It says rulers established two important empires in antiquity. The 19th and 16th century. You had the Old Babylonian Empire, right? You had the Neo-Babylonian Empire. Babylon was also used as a regional capital for other empires, such as the Achaemenid Empire, which is the Persian Empire. Babylon was one of the most important urban centers in the ancient Near East until its decline in the Hellenistic period, right? So let's take a look. Right, let's just dive down a little bit. It's archaeology, excavations, sources, early references, history. What's this? According to a Babylonian king's list, Amorite rule in Babylon began in the 19th or 18th century BCE with the chieftain named Samu Abum, who declared independence from the neighboring state of Kazalu, right? Samu Lael, whose dates may be concurrent with the Samu Abum, is usually given as the progenitor of the first Babylonian dynasty, right? First Babylonian dynasty. Both are credited with building the walls of Babylon. Okay, since Babylon was initially a minor city-state and controlled little surrounding territory, its four Amorite rulers did not assume the title of king. The older and more powerful states of Elam and Essene and Larsa overshadowed Babylon until it became the capital of Hammurabi's short-lived empire. Right? Hammurabi is where we get the code of Hammurabi. He's an Amorite. So again, Babylon was ruled by various different peoples, right? Then you have, all right, boom. Looks like the city was destroyed by the Kassites, right? Various people were vying for power here. In the 1595 BC, the city is thought to have been sacked by Mursili I, ruler of the Hittite Empire. So now Hittites, other Canaanites, they come and sack it, right? Let's read. So thereafter, the Kassite dynasty took power in the city of Babylon, renaming it Kardunaish, ushering in a dynasty that lasted 434 years until 1160 BC. Babylon was weakened during the Kassite era. As a result, Kassite Babylon began paying tribute to Pharaoh of Egypt, Thutmose III, right? So again, various periods, right? Then you have the Assyrian period, right? The Neo-Babylonian Empire. This is Nabopolassar, right? Nabopolassar, it says under Nabopolassar, Babylon escaped Assyrian rule. And allied Medo-Babylonian armies destroyed the Assyrian Empire between 626 and 609 BC. Babylon thus became the capital of the Neo-Babylonian, sometimes called the what? The Chaldean Empire. But this is between 626 and 609 BC. But guys, Abraham was a Chaldean. This is bad. This is bad.
But the people that made the calendar, right, are the folks Abraham comes from. We just saw the day Abraham was born, right? Watch this. When was the calendar created? By the Babylonians. According to historical evidence, because Deacon told us historical evidence, but he put it on the slide, right? This comes from the origins of the days and the weeks from livescience.com, right? We also have one from history.com, right? I'm going to show you. And this is his astronomy magazine that he used, right? Britannica also tells us about the Romans, right? But they mention the Greeks, right? So we're gonna even Constantine, who we talked about.
He's just scrolling. He's just doing some. I can't even see what he's talking about. He's just scrolling and saying things.
Who is a descendant of the Greeks? But what's to say about the Babylonians in their 7-day calendar? It was created approximately. So could have been way before this too, right? But approximately from what they find, the furthest piece of evidence they could dig up comes from 2300 BC. That's approximately, if this date isn't too short, right? That's 134 years before Abraham's birth, people. If they got a king like Sargon, who's ruler of the natural known world at that time, you don't think it's going to be hard for them to institute the whole 7-day calendar for everybody in his nation? Everybody in his kingdom? You think it's going to take 100 years for that to happen? No. So I guarantee you, for a fact, by the time Abraham was born in 2100 BC, right, that they most definitely had that 7-day calendar that they were using. And that by the time Moses comes on the scene,
like, why is he saying 7-day calendar? This is a 7-day week. Like, guys, let me show you something. Week. I'm going to show you the word week in the Hebrew. It's the Hebrew word shabawai, right? Shabawai, Strong's H7620, right? Shabawai. 7. Shabawai. It says properly passive participle of H7650 as the denominative of 7651, literally 7, i.e. a week, specifically of years, 7 week, right? Let's look at the outline of biblical uses. 7, period of 7 days or years. I'll give you an example, right? Genesis 29 and 27. Fulfill her week. Did Jacob work for a week, or did he work an additional 7 years for Rachel? The word week just means 7. It just means 7, right? And in verse 28, it says, and Jacob did so and fulfilled her week and he gave him Rachel, his daughter, to wife also. So again, Jacob originally agreed to work in 7 years for Rachel. He got tricked by Laban, and Laban gave him Leah, right? My mama Leah, right? Pops ain't want mom dudes, right? He wanted her fine little thick little sister, right? That's what he wanted, right? He worked 7 years for her, got tricked, and then had to work an additional 7 years to get her, right? Let me tell you something. Rachel had to be the baddest joint imaginable, right? Could you imagine working 14 years for a chick? Like, come on, right? But the word week, right, in the Hebrew is shabawai, right? It just simply means 7, right? So let's take a look, right? Let's look at these etymological roots. Oh, what does this word mean? 7. 7th, 17 with another word, right? 7 times. 7. The word means 7. That's it. Nothing extra spooky or mystical. The word week just simply means 7. Right? So when God told us in Leviticus chapter 23, right, in verse 2, right, it says, speaking to the children of Israel and saying to them concerning the feasts of the Lord, which ye shall proclaim to be a holy convocation, even these are my feasts. 6 days, right, shall work be done. But the seventh, Shabbat, right, this is just a derivation, right, this is just the ordinal, right, which is a multiple of what? Shabbat, which means 7. It's all connected. But the 7th is the Sabbath of rest. And again, the Bible lets us know that the moon determines when the feasts are. Not the sun, not whatever this week, this calendrical system that you're talking about from the fucking Babylonians. We're told not to learn the way of the heathen. But that's all he's been teaching in this lesson, is the ways of the heathen. Oh, the Romans got it from the Greeks, but we're the Greeks, the Danites, who were doing what? Following the ways of the heathen, worshiping idols. So in order to combat this idolatry claim, the brother doubled down, tripled down, quadrupled down with more and more and more and more idolatry. This is bad. Let's continue.
Gives us the Sabbath through the Most High. When the Most High gives us the Sabbath, right, through Moses, right, we see clearly that Moses is way after Abraham. If Abraham was living under this calendar, why wouldn't Moses also know about the calendar? If
Abraham was living under this calendar, the relevance, I just don't. I don't understand the logical leaps and bounds, right, and mental gymnastics that this brother is engaging in right now. All in efforts to keep the same Sabbath as the small hats, as the synagogue of Satan, as the people who stole our identity. The people that tell you that you can't eat a cheeseburger because they misinterpret the law where it says thou shalt not see the kid in his mother's milk. They said, oh yeah, you can't boil a kid, a young goat or any type of meat, right, with milk. So you can't have dairy and meat together. When all that simply means is you don't eat a young animal that's drinking from his mother's milk. It's like when a cow is born, the baby calf drinks the milk from its mom's udders, same way that baby humans drink breast milk. That's what that law is about. But of course, the small hats don't know that because they're not the people of God. But yet, all of our Saturn saints, you guys follow the same Sabbath as the synagogue of Satan. Let that sink in.
Living under a calendar in the second time before we went to Egypt, and we have proof that the Hyksos had their own way of keeping time. Sakari, which these guys come from, teach that we were addicted to Hyksos, right? I believe they call them the Anu or something like that, right?
No. We've never ever claimed that we were the Hyksos. Never. What we've claimed is that we were the Shasu, not the Hyksos. So you're wrong.
You can't contradict all the history that you taught before. So the Hyksos had their own way of keeping time separate than the Egyptians, which kept a 10-day calendar. Our 7-day calendar would have been that, right? Since the Hyksos are people that would have been under the Babylonian, viceroyship, rulership, place of worship, right? Place of being, territory, right? So this is what we have to understand. You feel me?
Like, as someone who claims to be a history guy, right? How could we be the Hyksos when the Hyksos ruled? They ruled in Egypt. We didn't rule in Egypt. Joseph was second under Pharaoh, but we, the Israelites, did not rule there. The Hyksos did. They have a whole fucking dynasty. Hyksos dynasty. If I'm not mistaken, the Hyksos dynasty is like the 15th dynasty, right? 100 years. For 100 years they ruled. We're not the Hyksos.
These things don't add up. And that's what needs to happen. Things got to add.
Touche. Everything that you've said does not add up. You said that Abraham was a Chaldean. He's not. The Chaldeans descend from one of his nephews. You said he was a Mesopotamian Babylonian. Did not live in Babylon. Lived in Ur. You said that the sun changes every day, but the moon doesn't. Like, I'm gonna keep it a buck, family. The Saturday Saints, the people who are just rah for this this Saturn Day Sabbath, Friday to Saturn Day Sabbath, are simply just doing this out of convenience. Yes, do I believe that Eliel and a lot of other brothers believe wholeheartedly that the Sabbath is Friday to Saturday? Yes, they do, right? But It just does not make sense. It does not line up with several Bible verses, right? And again, it's rooted in paganism. It just is. And in order to combat this paganism, it doubles and triples and quadruples down with more paganism. Absolutely amazing. All right. But yeah, man, we're getting close to 3 hours. Getting close to 3 hours. I can't react to the entire thing. I'd be here for a week just dissecting a lot of the nonsense that was stated in this video. But I believe that I've adequately demonstrated how problematic a multiplicity of statements made by the brother were just false. We're just wrong. Like he's just, and I'm not saying he's doing it on purpose or that he's lying, right? You see, the brothers of BOW, they said, "Oh, Deacon lied. Deacon lied. Oh, he lied. Oh, they lie on scripture." One thing you can't say is that we don't go to the Bible to prove this. That's the main thing, right? One thing that the Saturn Saints cannot do is show me Friday or Saturday in the Bible, in the ancient manuscripts. You can't do it, right? But you know, with that, I'm gonna give all praises, all glory, and all honor to the Most High God, whose name is Yahweh. Of course, I do so in the name of His only begotten Son, Hamashiach Yahushua, who the world ignorantly called Jesus Christ. Family, make sure you go over to HIBofficialzion.com, right? HIBofficialzion.com. Our link is in the description, right? Link is in the description. Actually, may not be on this video. Link is in the chat, right? Just put the link in the chat, right? Get yourself a copy of the HIB, the Hebrew Israelite Bible, all right? And use code WW3 at checkout for $25 off for a limited time. So tap in with us, right? Also tap in with my tassel page real quick. Let me just, enough of that. Enough of this. This is ridiculous. Gedalia Aharayhla here on Instagram, right? Gedalia Aharayhla. Okay. And hit me up, get you some bust down tassels, right? Keep the laws of God and be fly doing it. Look at that. All praise to the Most High. All right. But again, with that, family, I want to give all praises, all glory, all honor to the Most High God, whose name is Yahweh. Of course, to do so in the name of His only begotten Son, Hamashiach Yahushua, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. Until next time, Shalom and Mawaf Lababal.